All right. What's up, everybody? Blessed be. My name is Manon, and you're watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon. All linked down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for download if desired, which is very useful for those of you who don't want to keep stopping to take notes, etc. So, one of the many talents of being witchy alongside casting spells and performing celebratory rituals to the gods and spirits is helping out others by divining their future and troubled circumstances. This is the typical Hollywood stereotype of a witch hunched over a crystal ball, jabbering on about mysteries and mayhem as her bewildered and anxious subject stares longingly into his or her eyes, desperate for the next tidbit of juicy messages to glance over their ears in a most delightful, intoxicating, and often addictive psychological glamour that they just can't seem to get enough of. Hollywood or not, all of these things I just mentioned are in fact very real and practiced by most all witches in existence today. Divination is a skill that every witch should have under their belt and in their bag of tricks for both themselves and any forthcoming seekers looking for a boost and an advantage in their current situation. In this episode, I'm going to introduce the practice and concept of divination to you and go over some of the more popular systems so that you too can discover which divinatory practice you'd like to utilize going forward if you haven't discovered this as of yet. And if you've already have a divinatory practice and you're fluent with and feel it's your rock in these spirit information realms, then this video is still good for you because it never hurts to possibly learn a little more of something new to add to your witchy wonderment work belt. So with that being said, roll the intro. Welcome back, everyone. So what is divination? Divination is the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown by supernatural means. As I mentioned earlier, just about every witch I know is fluent with at least one divinatory practice. In fact, in my covens, it's mandatory to learn and become fluent in at least one divinatory practice. Divination is a skill that is definitely not picked up overnight, and like most everything else in witchcraft, must be practiced and developed over time. This is one of those magical muscles I am always talking about that is going to be you and only you that can build it up over time and become better and better at it. Eventually, you will be able to turn this off and on at will, and even at times begin to divine without even trying, in a frequent occurrence of random visualizations that in fact are messages coming from the other vibrations. Many divinatory systems are black and white in that you use a tool to represent a situation at hand, and this same tool has a predefined answer to the question being posed. For instance, tarot cards, runes, and the I Ching or Yi Ying, I don't know how to pronounce it, but they all work this way. Other forms of divination are more obscure in that right away you're utilizing a system that has no predefined meanings or definitions. Scrying, for instance, works this way, where one is simply utilizing visions that come to them and describing and transcribing these pictures and visions to their participant or even to themselves. In my opinion, this is true divination. Even utilizing tools such as the tarot, runes, or astrology, for instance, should always in the end include these spirit messages within the inner workings. These communications from other planes of vibrations that interact with our divination at hand and add that spark and intuition of the unknown. In other words, even if you throw a Tower tarot card, which everyone knows means a sudden unforeseen change, you should also be receiving a mind's eye vision of more detailed message to go along with the common interpretation. So how does one perform divination? Well, first you need to pick out a particular divination you may think you would be interested in. And from there, practice, practice, practice. It's also very important to make sure that you are opening yourself up to receiving when you practice your divinatory skills. One of the best ways to strengthen these magical muscles is through meditation and visualization skills. I have a video called Your Magic Muscles that is an excellent source to learn this, and I recommend you check it out after this video. I've linked it in the description below below too, so no worries. Pick a system and use it. It's very simple in theory, and downright fun practicing on all of your friends and family. It won't be long, I promise, before they're actually asking you to read for them, as there's an addiction to these practices, and so many Cowans, which are non-witches, are attracted to knowing what's to become or how to remedy a current situation. It's inevitable. Welcome to the wonderful world of witchcraft, whether you like it or not. And again, don't get frustrated. You have your whole witchy career and life in front of you. It will come, and when it does, it's an avalanche of emotions and mental puzzle solving that ultimately can be boiled down to invoking messages to untangle the deeper meaning that is then expressed to your client or subject. For more information on this, see my video on this subject above and also linked in the description below. Again, most of the time the tools and trinkets of divination are often just a small match that is used to ignite the bigger fire at hand. Well, with this being said, I hope I have explained the true essence of any divination practice and given you the tools to research and learn how to properly divine as a witch. Now let's look into some of the many systems of divination so that you too can become at least a little familiar through this video and possibly find a system you would like to practice and master. Let's start out with one of the most common divination tools in existence today, and personally what I will utilize when not just laying hands. These are tarot cards. The tarot cards of today are a deck of cards consisting of 56 minor arcana and 22 major arcana for a total of 78 cards. Now, of course, some decks differ, but this is the most common. The most popular tarot deck is the Rider-Waite deck. When most people think of tarot cards, this is the deck they are picturing. Most tarot decks contain 4 suits, usually coins, batons, swords, and cups. The earliest semblance of tarot cards can be traced back to the late 14th century, with some of the first documented tarot packs being recorded between 1440 and 1450. With tarot cards, each of the 78 cards has a unique predetermined meaning associated with each card. These cards are shuffled and laid out in what's called a spread, and then the meaning of these cards are interpreted by the reader in conjunction of where the card is placed in the particular section of the spread. A spread is just a format of where to place each card as it is turned over from the deck. Each spread has a section that represents different aspects such as money, love, health, past, present, future, environment, friends, etc., etc. One of the most common spreads is called the Celtic Cross. And for simplicity, I'm going to demonstrate the most common layout meanings, which may differ for some, so spare me the backlash in the comments. Each card drawn would be placed in the pattern shown, usually one at a time. As each card is laid, the diviner will relay the meaning and message to the querent. For instance, you may throw in position number 1, which is central issue, 5 of Cups representing disappointments and failures, but only because you are failing to see the potentials and opportunities that are available to you. You would relay this to your querent. The next card you throw is number 2, and that's in the position of what crosses you. Pretend you throw the Fool card, which means new beginnings, having faith in the future, or a so-called leap of faith, improvisation. Being that this is in the position of what crosses you, you could say that the reason the querent is in his or her position is because she is failing to let go and take some risks. He or she is too comfortable and set in their ways and needs to be put caution to the wind, so to speak, and take a leap of faith or a chance. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, don't be afraid to let in the invoked visions to help clarify some of the card's generalized meanings with more specific details to help the querent along their path. There are literally tons of tarot decks out there, as well as tons of different spreads, all attainable quite easily in the world today from our good buddy, Mr. Internet. If you like this system of divination, check it out and play with it. Good luck. Moving right along, let's talk about another system that's not too unlike the tarot cards, and these are called runes. The runes are actually an ancient alphabet dating back centuries to as early as 150 AD and come to us from ancient Germanic cultures, spreading into Sweden and Norway as well. The most common runes are called the Futhark, and they're comprised of a system that has 24 letters or symbols. These symbols all consist of straight lines, no curves at all, which makes them very useful for carving into stone or wood to make inscriptions. To work with runes in divination is called rune casting. Just like with the tarot, there can be dozens of layouts to choose from. It's just just a matter of finding the one that works for you. Some people reach in their rune bag and pull out one at a time and lay them down on a rune cloth, not too unlike tarot cards, and then proceed to read the meaning of each rune in its current position as it lay in the spread, so to speak. Another method is to grab out a certain number of runes, for instance, say the nice magical number of 9, and then toss the runes onto the rune cloth and read them as they landed. Just like tarot cards, you can buy a rune set from most any metaphysical shop or even online through Amazon. Those most adventurous of rune casters create their own runes by utilizing pieces of small wood discs cut from a tree branch, with each rune symbol being etched into the wood via wood burning utilizing a magnifying glass and the sun itself. Let's use the runic talk to segue into the next divination practice, which is called bone casting. Bone casting is very similar to casting runes, only the system is a little more personalized, as unlike runes that are set symbols that mean different things, bone kits are usually put together by an individual with different objects representing different meanings per the individual casting the bones. Bone sets aren't always just a bunch of different bones either. Most bone casting sets that people put together consist of coins, dice, matchsticks, buttons, teeth, keys, beads, marbles, shells. I mean, basically anything that can be found that is small enough to fit in the palm of your hand and unique enough to assign a permanent meaning to it. They sell some bone throwing kits online, but I think it's much better to put your own together and be adventurous about it. Make it your own, so to speak. It may take some time to put your bone throwing kit together, and there's no set number of items either, so this is something you decide. In the end, they are very much like the runes, whereas you would throw these bones on a cloth and read them as per a specific layout. For instance, you can use the mini runic spreads for bones too. Scrying is another form of divination which involves staring into an object with intent and clarity, unwavering until ultimately visions begin to appear, either to your physical eyes or your mind's eye. This is where we see the stereotypical witch or gypsy staring into her crystal ball to receive visions of past, present, and future. As these visions are captured, they're relayed to the anxiously awaiting court in hopes that some sort of guidance down the right path will be revealed by the seer. This is the most raw form of divination, as there are no tools or items that have predetermined meanings attached to them, and the only device is the medium that the seer is simply staring into, with the result of seeing visions that are then interpreted to the current. Such mediums can be a crystal ball, a magic black mirror, fire, a bowl of water, incense smoke, or just about anything that can be stared upon, allowing the physical vision to cloud over, giving way to receive messages from other realms. I personally love utilizing a black magic mirror to scry, and you can see my video linked above and in the description below on just how to make and use such a mirror. Scrying is a more advanced form of divination, with many attempting these exercises for years and never really getting the gist of it. Then again, some get it right away, and if you're so gifted as to be one of those individuals, congratulations. Any of these other divinations should come very easy to you moving forward. The pendulum is yet another type of divinatory device and tool. A pendulum is simply a stone, piece of jewelry, or object at the end of a string and allowed to swing freely side to side or to and fro. As I mentioned, the objects at the end of the string can be made of just about anything that isn't too bulky and is allowed to swing freely without too much effort. The very first pendulum I ever owned was one I made myself using a small piece of lodestone and a string. Again, like most of the things I've mentioned earlier, you can buy a pendulum on Amazon or any number of the craft supply houses around today. Most pendulums are used by asking a yes or no question and then holding the pendulum straight up and down. Some even write the question on a piece of paper and then hold the pendulum over the question. The pendulum should start to swing, left or right, or to and fro. To and fro, the answer is yes. Left and right, or side to side, introduces a no. If the pendulum swings in circles, then the answer is unclear at the moment. You can also use pendulums to locate the seat of an illness. Simply lay the person down on the floor in front of you and run the pendulum over the person's body, stopping at each zone of the body. It's believed that if the pendulum begins to swing to and fro at any point of the body, there's possibly a problem in that area. And a doctor should be visited to clear any concerns. Pendulums can also be used a lot more accurately with the use of a spirit board. This is a board that has multiple stations set up on it that the pendulum is held over in order to give an answer. These stations range from what or who's giving you the messages to directions, emotions, and key measures in life such as money, love, and business situations. I have one of these boards made for me by a very special person in my life, and I gotta tell you, it works and it's very powerful. I've also seen where a pendulum is used to divine the sex of an unborn baby still in the womb by holding the pendulum over the blossoming belly. If the pendulum swings up and down, it's a boy. If the pendulum swings side to side or left and right, it's a girl. Let's get into astrology. Astrology is a type of divination that involves the forecasting of earthly and human events through the observations and interpretation of the fixed stars, the sun and the moon, and the planets. Now, astrology is one of those things I never delved too much into, so to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it except that I'm a Sagittarius with a Libra rising, and my moon is also in Sagittarius apparently. Mostly everyone is familiar with their sun signs depending on when you were born. You're either a Capricorn, an Aries, a Sagittarius, a Taurus, Gemini, Libra, a Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Virgo, Pisces, or Cancer, and I think that's all of them. If I left one out, I apologize. Astrology dates all the way back to approximately 1800 BC and was practiced by the ancient Babylonians. Astrology is a very, very complex system that can be delved into and studied for years. Many avid astrology junkies receive daily horoscopes to help guide them through their daily endeavors and situations. This practice is very detailed, and when practiced daily, involves calculations and alignments that will ultimately deliver answers and suggestions as to what to do and what to expect in your daily life if so desired. Many people today are actually signed up to online daily horoscope services that does away with all the calculations and leaves them with the cut and dry desired answers to help guide them in their decisions moving forward. There are tons of these services online if you want to check them out yourself. Jump on and figure out which is right for you. Some are pay and some are free, but you need to be the judge. I actually have a video coming out very soon that will delve into the ins and outs of astrology, where a special guest will be teaching us all about this system. Taciography, also known as Taciogrammy, is the art of identifying symbols and interpreting messages found in the shapes and configurations of tea leaves. This practice most likely originated around the mid-1800s in Europe. So to practice this divinatory technique, you simply need a cup, a saucer, boiled water, and loose tea leaves. Once the tea has been prepared, the querent should sip the tea whilst thinking of their questions at hand. Once they have about a tablespoon of tea left, they should begin to swirl the last bit of liquid, sharing their energy with the leaves, in essence charging them so that they can share the message with the querent. Next, also with the left hand, slowly and carefully invert the cup over the saucer. Leave the cup upside down for approximately 1 minute, then rotate it 3 times. Turn the cup back upright, positioning the handle due south. Tea leaves should be stuck to the cup in a variety of shapes and clusters, embedded with insight and answers. Now it's time to tell their story. Ouija Board. One of the first divinatory tools that many of us were introduced to when we were kids was the infamous Ouija Board. I'm sure just about everyone knows what this Parker Brothers wonder is, and probably most of us have dabbled at some point in our lives. The Ouija Board has gotten a very bad rap in my opinion, not much unlike that of the witch itself, which blows me away how many witches are so against the Ouija Board and believe that it's an evil device of conjuring forth demons and bad spirits to wreak havoc on anyone who comes in contact. Again, witches were thought of in the same manner at one point. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it? A Ouija board is simply a platform to possibly communicate with the subconscious mind and link to the Akashic, just like all of the other divinations when operated properly. Though many feel the Ouija is a portal to evil and will not even go near it. To each their own, but I felt like it deserved a mention here. So I can personally attest that I've used a Ouija board for decades and even built my own many times throughout the years, and I've never brought forth an evil entity that ransacked my life into oblivion. In fact, I've only had good experiences with a Ouija board, but that's just me. I feel if you really are afraid of a Ouija board and you really think it's gonna bring you a bad sack of apples, then by all means, you don't use one, because that attitude will most likely actually do exactly what you think. We bring forth what we tend to fear in situations like this. But for those who may not know what a Ouija board is, it's a board with the alphabet on it, A through Z, and the numbers 0 through 9, as well as the words yes, no, and goodbye. A device called a planchette is utilized to point at the letters and numbers on the board. Actually, there's a Ouija board right here. And this is a planchette. So a person or persons will sit around the board and place their fingers on the planchette ever so lightly. A question is then asked. If all goes good, the planchette will begin to move beneath the fingers and spell out an answer to the question asked. Palmistry is yet another type of divination. This is the practice of a palm reader examining the palm of a person's hand and reading and interpreting the lines that everyone possesses on their palms. Each line, according to palmistry, represents a different thing in and of that person's life. For instance, their love line, lifeline, and fate line, to name a few. This has often been seen being done in Hollywood movies by the gypsy fortune teller who reads the corn's palm before they ultimately run off to cause mischief and mayhem. Nonetheless, this is a very real practice, and its accuracy for many people is quite confident and steadfast through the years. Bibliomancy is divining by asking a question and then opening a book to a random page and pointing at a random section, which is then read and interpreted to answer your question at hand. I've done this myself quite a few times. In fact, it is traditional for me that when I go out of town and end up staying at a hotel, I'll always grab the Bible from the nightstand drawer, open it up to a random section, point and read the passage to see how this current trip is going to go. It's usually pretty accurate and a lot of fun at that. Any books can be used in bibliomancy. It's best if it's a pretty thick and diverse book, and a lot of people do this practice utilizing the Bible as the source. But again, you can use whatever book you wish. If you need a hefty witchy book, use Triumph of the Moon by Paul Husson, for example. You probably won't be disappointed. Clouds can be utilized as a source for divinatory practice as well. Simply ask a question on a nice cloudy day and then look up to the sky and choose the cloud that calls to you. Ask the cloud to show you the answer. Watch the cloud and see it turn into the shape of what it's trying to tell you. Once you get the shape it's presented, now it's up to you to interpret this for yourself. Other divinations that deserve a quick mention are automatic writing, which entails trancing out and writing with a pencil, crayon, or pen on a piece of paper, random letters, shapes, and lines, and then afterwards examining this and seeing if anything can be determined from the scribbles. People adept at this practice usually produce very legible interpretations. Our dreams can be an active divinatory process, and many of us don't even realize it. More times than not, our dreams can be our subconscious and other vibrations sending us messages of caution or change of path plans. Dreams can divine for us on many levels and even for past lives. Pay attention to your dreams in this manner. Maybe even keep a dream journal so that you can write them down as you awake from them. One suggestion, however, make sure you write down your dream in your journal before your feet touch the ground from getting out of bed. The second your feet touch the floor, you begin to ground and your dream remembrance will begin to suck right out of you. The next thing you know, you don't remember shit or the fine details that mattered. So make sure you write this stuff down before you get out of bed. Well, that's gonna wrap up this episode of Witching and Working. Do you practice a divination skill of some sorts? Tell us all what it is in the comments below. Does it help you and the others in life? Let us know. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this video, hit that subscribe button and ring that little bell to be reminded of future episodes to come. The script to this video, if so desired, is available through my Patreon account, which is linked in the description below. I love you guys and gals. Until next time, blessed be. And remember, do not let their ignorance become your demons.